It's the Real Estate Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty in Boise. And Chris, I know later on in the show you're going to talk about a couple of great places you've got. 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. We talked to you earlier about where people are moving and where are they going. I've got to believe just all the building going on in Eagle. Somebody needs a house because they are going to be working at some of these places.
Yeah, and that's being driven too. They discussed that as well with how much construction's up, Dave, in Ada County in general, in Boise. But you look at it's because I think what's happening is you're seeing these builders take advantage of low lot prices. They're able to make money again, and the fact of the matter is that they're building a product that we need. So we don't. These resale homeowners are not they're still not putting their houses on the market. We've been talking about this for a year now. And we're hovering around 2,200 homes. We should be at like 3,300 homes. It would be a healthier market for sure. But I think what's happening is those builders are seeing a gap, whether it's a baby boomer or whether it's a family home or whatever it is, because there are gaps out there. When you go to look and do a search for a specific homeowner or a buyer, what I mean is they look for it, and there's nothing there. And so we're kind of starting to see that. So, we're turning, like, for example, Annette's building a house right now. So she's, she looked out there. She couldn't find what she wanted, so she turned to build. So we're seeing a lot of that come back.
Yeah, so we're looking for dirt, too, out there, and you guys will help with that. So I guess I should give a shout-out to Jerry Kelly because I'm like, Jerry, I'm still looking for that 1 acre. Come on now. Help me out. So, Van, a piece here just because I work with my uncle who's a U.S. Senator. He's in the midst of trying to get reelected. And I know he's on the road campaigning a lot, and, I'm crossing my fingers for him. But if something happens where they're not elected, you have that lame duck session between now and the time and there's still stuff that has to be passed and to be done. I don't think a lot of people realize that Senate election, how important that is. How's that going to affect folks that are out there?
And of course, we're talking about control of the Senate. House versus Democrat, and I think the House is going to stay with the Republicans. Again, I can't really. I don't pay attention too much to that. Here's what concerns me.
Okay,
fear. The media loves to play on fear, and people are more likely to believe fear, and what that is bad news and everything else than they are over good news. And so the problem, and it's almost sometimes. What's the word? It kind of brings itself on because of so much talk about it. And one of it's the fiscal cliff. I just want to make sure everybody understands something that, if they don't do something, they literally are playing chicken right now. And if they don't do anything, the game of chicken,
sure.
You have a head-on collision.
Right.
And so each party's going to have to come together on this fiscal cliff thing. There's just no doubt about it. We're in no way, shape, or form in the economy to all of a sudden increase the coffers at the federal level. Middle-class Americans cannot afford it.
So, Van, it kind of explained that because obviously that's your world and the world we live in, but has to do with some of the Bush tax cuts that were put into place, and now they're getting ready to expire. Tell our listeners what the heck that means.
Well, let's go back 11 months ago. 11 months ago, we were in the same boat, by the way. And what happened was they just came in and passed a bill to extend it one more year. But now I think it's because the election year, it's just got a lot more higher tension involved. Sure. My hope is, first and foremost, fiscal cliff, the Bush tax cuts were made in a way that was across the board. So it lowered everybody's, if you're a high earner over 250, you saw a reduction of you went from 39% down to around 35%. If you were in the lower income brackets, you saw child credits double. Right. Which is substantial. I mean, you're talking going from a $500 to $1,000 child credit. So if you're used to a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 refund at the end of the year, that thing's going to get cut. Now the big thing about this is we're talking about federal level income taxes. Well, even if it doesn't get resolved this quarter, end of this year, that doesn't mean that Congress gets together in January or February and then they go ahead and meet and they said, hey, we're going to make some concessions here, but we're going to retro back to January 1. So I just want to make sure that they call it a cliff. I understand that. It's a call to action, obviously. But let's get real about the real situations here. It is political suicide to do nothing.
Right. Well, what you're saying, Van, so for example, if we do nothing or if nothing happens and then something does happen, say February 15th, they make a decision on something. You're saying that would be retro back to January 1?
Congress does it all the time.
Right.
They do it all the time. But they love to build the fear up. I mean, that's what sells paper and airspace. nothing personal about your business, Dave. No, I mean, that's what it sells. I mean, so
are you picking on Dave's business?
No, I'm not. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, it's entertainment. So just kidding.
Well, we always say, what's fear? False expectations appearing real, and I think that's what it comes about.
Absolutely.
So, Van, let me ask you this. I think they asked, and I'm being facetious here, but yeah, Mrs. Lincoln. But other than that, how was the play? Is there a bright spot that you're seeing out there? I mean, what are you telling, and I know we don't want to give financial advice, but what are you seeing out there? Because there's got to be some good stuff.
That's the thing I really, really am missing, and I totally agree with you. There's a lot of good stuff. I see companies. I deal with a lot of business owners from eastern Idaho to northern Idaho, and even Aaron Seaver, my business partners in Arizona right now, and we've got clients in California. Everybody seems to be making money. Every business owner I know, and I tell them all the time, the reason why you're still in business is because you become a better business owner. You're more efficient in what you do and what you build, and you probably got better employees today than you had back in 2008 because you had to in order to survive.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Just we talk about our business, and you talk about it, how it's gotten really squeezed down. We went from 6,000 realtors now to 3,000.
So now we got better quality, and it gets back to quality again.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a better quality company, got a better quality real estate agent,
right.
And now people are starting to make money. We've been in a trough, and if you know about the ups and swings of troughs, we're in a potential upswing.
Sure.
The problem is we can get drugged back down into that trough is when fear takes over, and fear is the strongest emotion a human being will ever experience, and that is something we have to, as advisors, manage all the time with our clients.
No question about it.
And I'm sure with your customers as well. Do I buy? Do I sell? And all those things.
Well, you're exactly right. You talk about Ada County, you look at it and you go, okay, will that create fear to a potential buyer that could have bought a house last year in Ada County for $140,000 and now it's $162,000? That creates some fear. They're like, okay, well, is it going to be $180,000 next year? Should I buy now? Should I? And then they're like, well, is it going to go back down? Is it going to, and so you have all these questions, and no one's got a crystal ball. I understand that, but we're talking about real estate, like in our world, it was so low. We never talk about appreciation.
Well, you're in the trough,
right? Well, we talk about your appreciation. We talk about market correction. What was true market correction? It's just like when the
stock
market dumped 2 Octobers ago, whatever it was, right? And we talk about that. That's not appreciation. It's just correction. It just corrected itself. Don't you agree?
Well, yes, to some extent. You should always have normal corrections. The problem is again when fear takes over,
right?
And really back in 2008, 2009, fear took off and market tumbled, and of course it ran itself right back up at the end of 2009, and it's been doing well ever since. It's just that, and meanwhile, a lot of people have been sitting in money market accounts and banks, and if you understood what was happening at the meeting on Wednesday, we're going down. There's a huge contraction of banks going to occur over the next 4 to 5 years, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you put all your money in a bank and you think it's going to be there, and FDIC is going to be there to protect you, you need to really be strategizing there at the bank level as well.
Right. That's exactly what Mountain West Bank too said. The CEO of Mountain West Bank, he said, you know what, we have such an influx of cash into our accounts, but we have nowhere to put it. You know what I mean? So he starts talking about, whether it's housing loans or whether it's commercial loans, whatever it is.
But that's good news too, though, and that's one of the things I wanted to get back to was look at our debt per households that were occurring and everything that was going on. I mean, we were in the world of consumption. We were consuming goods and we were buying it on credit cards. Those days are gone. And that kind of speaks to my previous session was we've got to look at consumption differently today if we're going to base what our future is on our GDPs and our health of our economy, because consumption's going away because people will wait. I mean, you're seeing layaways come back. I remember when my wife and I first got married, that's how we did Christmas.
Right.
Went to Kmart, went to the, and all those things are coming back. And I think those are all really good things because when people have money in their bank, in their savings account, they will eventually feel better about themselves. They'll feel more confident. Hopefully they won't go back into the easy days of credit. True. I don't want those days back. Right. But at the same time, though, it causes people to want to be savers. It causes them to want to invest. It causes them to want to think long term.
Well, you see a lot more people use cash too. You see it.
Absolutely.
If you look out there, you watch and keep your eyes open. You watch a lot more people using debit cards as opposed to credit cards. I see it every day. When we're out and about.
No, and I think those are that's the good news. The thing, and it gets back to that pill. The problem is when does that take hold, and when does that make a positive in our economy? We're in a lag time right now because of what we're relying on a consumption rate for. So it gets back to, we do have some struggles ahead of ourselves, no doubt about it. But I see a bright future ahead of ourselves, just for those fundamental changes that have occurred. And two, it gets back to, the younger generations coming up behind us now. And I'm 44, and I see I have a 23-year-old son. He was in that gap of the guys that were hit the hardest in 2008. But he went out and formed his own business, and now he's working for Aaron and I too. And the kid's a worker, and he's a smart kid.
Sure.
He still works less hours than I did at his age, right. But he's making more money than he is. And I think that's what we have to start to rely on is these kids aren't necessarily lazy or anything else. They might just be, the old saying, work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And I think we need to keep looking at our economy moving that direction. It's not so much always going to be the mechanics, the trinkets and everything else that we need to manufacture, that we feel like we need to be bringing back onto this country and keep the unions happy and everybody else, because we got minimal, I'll call it labor, not skilled labor, but just laborers. It's going to be a tough world for them. It's just going to be in this country. I hate to say that, but it is what it is.
Well, you're right. But technology's changed so much. Even like you talk about in the real estate, you talk about it's good. Yes, I can be more efficient when I'm working with a smartphone, an iPad. We can
look what we can do today.
Right.
Just dealing with a client versus just 5 years ago from the communication of lag time between communications.
Yeah.
I mean, things get done so much faster today, and in doing so, we can do a lot more.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's no question about it. And I also think on the other side of things too, not to look at it in a negative light, I also think there's too much information out there as well. I mean, so that's become a very big struggle in our world, especially if you talk to Jerry about it. You have buyers that can go on and they're pulling stuff off of Zillow, and they're thinking that it's all, they have these crazy numbers. I'm like, it's not real. It's just information that's out there that you're getting. It's wrong information.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get all the good information from Van Carlson, who's the principal at Concierge Legacy. Van, along with his partner, Aaron Seauer. You can reach them at conciergelegacy.com, or you can call 275-8875, 275-8875. And as always, Van, you encourage him, hey, if you just want to shoot him an email, Van at Concierge Legacy. I get a piece that you send out. I think it's every week. Maybe it's every couple, but it's a great newsletter, and it's just a snapshot. If they want to get your newsletter, what do they need to do to get that?
They can request it right off our website or send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to add them to our mailing list.
Yeah, take advantage of that. It's great, good information piece. We will take time out. We'll come back with the Real Estate Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty, Boise. Going to have Chris talk about a couple of his listings that he's got, and remind him that he does have. I just got a phone call. Jerry said you do have to go out to the parade of homes for an hour here. So I guess you didn't show up last week. I don't know. We'll be back.